says, I have worked at the Outdoor Challenge course for the past 11 years. One of the groups that has come out every year is a school in Sioux Falls. They bring their entire 4th, 5th, and 6th grades. The parents have been so excited about having their children get this chance that I know, at least in the past, they have raised money so all the kids would have the chance to participate. Anyway, this particular year, the kids have been working together on the low initiatives and challenges together in small groups. We do this to strengthen their skills at communication and support and teamwork. When we feel they are ready, we take them to the high elements. These are the challenges that take place 40 to 60 feet off the ground. I was belaying the zip line, or being tethered to a child, meaning the kids were harnessed to me the entire time as they climbed. The pole up the zip line was about 55 feet high. I looked at the little 5th grade girl that stepped up to be next. She was a darling, petite little blonde. She happened to have cerebral palsy and was significantly impaired, and she was deaf. But she was really excited to give it a shot, so I hooked her up, snapped on her helmet, and up she started. It was tough to watch her, as it was with supreme effort she struggled to make her hands move up the rungs on the ladder one at a time. It was even more difficult for her to get her feet up and steady on the rungs. Now the ladder is 14 feet high, and I found myself silently praying that she would make it to the top of the ladder so she would feel her efforts were successful. It took a while, but she never slowed down or showed signs of quitting, and I thought, yes, I think she can maybe even get up one rung on the staples of the pole. I think I forgot to mention that she was also deaf, so she couldn't hear the encouraging and cheering that was going on below her. Well, she got to the top of that ladder, and she looked over at me, and we were all waving and smiling, and I thought she would be ready to start back down. I was wrong. She looked at me, and then she looked up to the top of that pole, and she turned back to me and pointed up. She wanted to keep climbing. It was absolutely inspiring to watch the total concentration and determination of that little blonde beauty as she made her way up that pole. By the time she got to the top, the entire field was watching her, cheering like crazy people, waving our arms. They hooked her up, and she stepped off the platform 55 feet in the air and sailed 100 feet. There were no dry eyes among the staff. And Susie Bike says, I felt ashamed of myself because I had let her disability determine my expectations of her. I hadn't let her dreams determine what she could accomplish. I was humbled by that little girl that day as she taught me a lesson I will never forget. And I think the lesson is so often we all have disabilities of ignorance and low expectations. I know we feel that at times when government lets us down, when government isn't there, when government fails to do the things that we've come to expect and even to deserve as citizens in a great state like South Dakota. The disability of ignorance and low expectations should not hold us back. It should never hold us back. We should be inspired by that little girl's story to know that the sky is the absolute limit, that there is nothing that we cannot do, and that the future is ours. Now our slogan is, it's time, and there's a reason for that. It's time. I hear it whenever I go around this state. I believe that this state is at a tipping point, at a turning point. It is about to change the fundamental way it deals with its institutions and its future. I feel it every time I talk to Democrats, and I know that they are inspired. And I hear people saying it's time. I feel it every time I see the registration numbers in the state of South Dakota, as they have been since 2006, moving in our direction and moving in the direction of the independent registration, and I know that it's time. I feel it every time I look at the leadership of the South Dakota Democratic Party and how stable and meaningful and helpful they have become, and I hear people saying it's time. I look at the campaign that we've been able to put together for governor, that Steve Jardine has come back to run. Steve Jardine has moved his family back to help us, all the great people, and I hear people throughout South Dakota saying, it's time. and I look at the numbers in the legislature, and I see that in spite of some setbacks, in spite of difficulty west of the river, we've added 4 seats in the legislature in 2006, and we added 4 more in 2008, and I hear the people of South Dakota saying it's time. And when they see that there's a deficit of $107 million, and when they see that we've overspent by 53%, and yet there is no increase in services, and there is no meaningful change in the way those services are delivered, I hear the people of South Dakota say to me, it's time. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Democrats, you know it and I know it. This is our year. This is our time. This is a turning point in South Dakota. This is it. It's time. Thank you. Thanks, folks. I have one more duty. It is my privilege to introduce Ben Arndt to you and to ask him to come up and say a few words. Ben is going to be an unbelievable lieutenant governor. He's going to wake up every day knowing that his job is jobs. He runs a business. He knows how to do that. He knows how to create jobs, and he knows how to keep an operation lean and positive and looking forward. I'm so excited about him, and having both Ben and his wife Sarah representing the next generation of South Dakotas. This truly is an intergenerational ticket. I'm so excited to have him have the chance to speak with you tonight. Ben, would you come on up?
You know, I tell you, it either speaks to the openness of this party, or it's one heck of an initiation into the Democratic Party. I'm the guy here that's been in politics for about a month. I've been a Democrat for about 24 hours. And now I have to follow some of the inspiring leaders we have. So it truly is an honor to be up here, and I really appreciate it. I'm so humbled to stand before you tonight because you don't know me that well. And I intend to change that over the course of the next 4 months and over the next 8 years. And I continue that process tonight. So let me tell you what I think is at stake in this election. State government in Pierre is broken, and South Dakota is broke. Too many opportunities are being lost, and too many South Dakotans' lives are being adversely affected for the past 8 years because we have had people running the state who fail to understand that government of, for, and by the people needs to be for all people and not just a select few. And let me give you tonight again the same pledge that I gave Scott 4 weeks ago. We need to change Pierre to make our state government smaller, smarter, more open, and more accountable. We need a state government that once again fights for working families and for those living on Main Street, instead of the fights for foreign corporations and those on Easy Street. Before Scott selected me, we talked at length about our philosophies of government, of our belief in the value of investing in human capital, and of the need to make government work again for middle-class families, and of changing the existing infrastructure in Pierre that thinks doing nothing is the definition of leadership. Tonight I want to tell you more about my philosophy of government and of public service, but first let me tell you a little bit more about myself. Like Scott Heideprim and a lot of you in this room, I was born and raised in rural Midwest America, a small town called Wall Lake, just across the border, about 80 miles across the border into Iowa. I was born into a middle-class family with Midwest values. These included working hard, being honest, being fair, doing your best